Sure, today. But at any rate, I think we do need to evaluate that possibility, and I'll give you a couple of reasons why. Number one, the federal government, for us to continue to assume that the federal government is going to provide us the kind of transportation resources that they historically provided us, back in the 1980s and earlier, I think that is a search for fool's gold. I don't believe the federal government is going to step up in a significant way. That means state and regional and local governments are going to have to be more innovative and resourceful with transportation funding mechanisms. I've watched other regions around the country. LA just passed a local option levy that provides literally billions of dollars. I think it's about 26-ish. Somebody will correct me. If I say 20... Right in the ballpark. 26 billion over a 40-year period, 860 million in the first year. That was a very innovative package they crafted at the local level and took out to their taxpayers and received broad support. Here locally, we're going to have to look at other options as well. As you know, right now, that's a decision that has to be made at the state level. Tolling has been in existence around the globe and in other parts of the country for decades. And for us to simply say it's off the table and we're not going to talk about it at a time when our city and regional transportation infrastructure is literally crumbling under our feet, we don't have that luxury just to say no. We need to take a hard look at it.
Just a quick follow-up to any of the mayors. There's a bill that's been introduced that would allow creation of special districts for limited access highways funded via tolls, and the idea has been floated that maybe there could be a tollway through Washington County and then up over the Columbia River. That idea has been floated a couple of times. Do any of you have a stance on this idea of having special districts for the purpose of a limited access highway?
Well, from a property tax perspective, special districts get interesting, right? Because it comes under compression. So as we start to talk about all of the other things and the issues in our cities and needs in our city, and you start stacking those up, you add another district in there, another taxing authority, you start hitting compression and you start to peel off from all of the other things, law enforcement, fire, that we're doing. So my first instinct on special districts, I'm speaking personally for myself, is that gets a little bit dicey and under the current property tax constraints. But anybody else want to?
I'll agree to, again, Lori DeRemer, Mayor of Happy Valley, and what we just heard in talking to our senators and representatives, that 5 and 50 is not going to be touched. So we can't get away from that compression issue. So to add another district would be a difficult one.
Well, I mean, if I may, and I'm not familiar with the legislation, Lou Ogden from Tualatin, I don't think we're talking about a special district from a property taxing standpoint. You're talking about creating an entity to be responsible for accepting the tolls, managing the tolls, and then doing the projects. And I don't know that I have a feeling for or against that, other than the fact that the transportation system is a ubiquitous system. It's a statewide system. Well, and it's shared today between cities, counties, and the state for building and funding. And I think that model probably is better kept that way. And so if there were an operating entity, perhaps it would report through the Oregon Transportation Commission or something of that nature, so that you still have the government involvement. The question, though, really is about tolls. And frankly, we all pay tolls every time we buy a gallon of gasoline. The difference is that gas tax, we don't have any discretion about how those, we as a person buying the gasoline have no discretion on how that money is used. On a toll, you get to choose. I want to buy that passage, and so here's my nickel or here's my dollar. And I think that's absolutely in the public interest, and particularly with the fact that the current funding doesn't provide the ability to build any additional facilities. I think there's two things I have to be concerned about, though. One is that this notion of gentrification. Those can afford the tolls can go in the free lane, or the fast lane, I mean, and those who can't are restricted back to. So we need to have some way to provide some means testing or relief for folks that can't afford to pay the tolls. And then secondly, you've got to make sure that when you toll a right-of-way, that you have an alternative route. That if you don't want to pay the toll and you want to go sit in congestion, you have the right to do that.
To hear from